Hello to everybody who's ever connected with their dad in a way they did not anticipate coming when they were young. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour. One phone call. No names. No holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun. And I'll get to know you and you'll get to know me.
Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here. I know not everybody loves a long intro. I'll just remind you, if you want a lot of ska-focused bonus content this week, go ahead and sign up at beautifulanonymous.com, because, man, does the phrase "less than Jake" get said 20 times? What's the over-under? I think it is said just under, if I had to bet, but it might be over. Either way, if you want to skip the intro, you're going to want to skip about 5.5 minutes ahead. Enjoy the call. Hi, everybody. Chris Gethard here. Welcome to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. I will remind you, I got some tour dates at punchup.live/Chris Gethard. Also want to say thanks to everybody who's been signing up for our bonus content at beautifulanonymous.com. We had a little push. We're at just under 900 right now. Let me click refresh. Yes, we are at 894 signups. That ain't bad. Thanks, everybody. And if you want to talk about the bonus content, first of all, this week's bonus content is really silly and funny and fun. You're about to fall in love with the caller, and I'm telling you right now, we talk a lot about 90s ska. 90s ska punk is discussed heavily in the bonus content. So if you've been sitting on that $5 waiting to sign up the right week, welcome. Pick it up, everybody. Pick it up. We talk a lot about ska. It's fun to talk about ska music in that bonus content. But and when you hear me say that, you'll be shocked, because when you hear this call, it's pretty different than that. I'll speak to that in just 1 second. First of all, I just want to continue to say that I hope everybody's finding peace, comfort, catharsis from this podcast. In prior election years, I found that people really wanted to call up, and it would come up more and more. That some people want to directly talk about politics. Other people, it would just creep in. And this year, we are almost in September now, and I find that actually our calls tend to be more about silliness recently, about being a go-getter, about trying to do some good in the world. And there's been a lot of laughing and a lot of optimism and a lot of joy. And for the sociologists who many years in the future realize that you can track where humanity is at, particularly American mood, through this podcast, I will tell you, 2024, I feel like we are not falling for the doom and gloom trap anymore. I said it last week and I'll say it again. I feel like we are deciding that we're going to be goddamn forward-thinking optimists in this country in 2024, and I am glad to see it, and I have high hopes that extends and it continues, because that would be a nice movement to be alive for. It feels like for a whole bunch of years, it's the doom, it's the gloom, it's the panic, it's the fear. That's what they motivate us with. And all of a sudden, I can feel through our callers that a lot of people are going, nope, I'm going to tell you the things I get out there and do to feel good, to figure myself out, to try to make the world feel good around me. And that's a beautiful thing. And this week's call really reflects that. You're going to hear this is a caller who has lived through a lot of stuff that is really scary. Sickness that can almost take your life, and does take some people's lives, and radically alters many people's lives. Radically altered this caller's life for sure. We'll get into that. First, we're also just going to hear, though, how the caller has decided that their thing is they're just going to be a badass. They're just going to do badass things, and they're going to giggle and laugh about it. And the vibe is impeccable because of that, and you'll hear it at the start of the call. And then once that is established, that this caller is a badass who does badass things, you'll also come to hear how living through a lot has helped make that a priority and a goal. And it's eye-opening. I'm never going to be somebody who goes and, runs 100 miles. I'm never going to be somebody who, signs up for CrossFit and starts entering competitions about my physical feats. But I will say that while that has come to be this caller's chosen way to define life and dive into life, I would just encourage everybody listening to go, that's the inspiring part, right? That's how you dove into life after you lived through X, Y, and Z, things that I won't specifically spoil. And I walk away from it going, that's a good reminder to me that the best stretches of my life are the stretches when I've been confident and bold and dived into stuff. And I bet a lot of you out there feel that too. And if anything, I hope this encourages us all to go, you know what? Why not? Why not dive back into the thing that I find challenging, the thing that I find captivating, the thing that helps me get to a place in my mind that's a little more zen. That caller did it in a big way, and I am impressed. You will be too. Enjoy the call, everybody.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going okay. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Kind of tired, running around the country like a manic oddball, and I'm a little too old for that. So I'm tired from my touring, but I'm very happy.
Are you back home, or are you still on tour right now?
No, I got home yesterday morning, and then tomorrow I go camping with my family because I never slow down.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I can relate for sure.
It's all
not with the touring, but just not slowing down at all.
Yeah. I mean, I got a good life. I'm not trying to complain, but yeah, it's all good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I've also been running around today. I feel like I'm just kind of waking up again after the madness of this past weekend. I was on a big bike ride, and I rode across my state in 2 days. Wait,
you rode across your entire state in 2 days?
I did. And it's so weird to even say that, because I'm like, how did I do that? But I did. I started at the other border and made it across, and here I am home again.
And this was this week?
This was over the weekend, yeah. So I rode.
It's Tuesday.
I rode all day Friday and all day Saturday and all day Sunday. Yeah, and got back late Sunday night.
Now, was this? Hold on, I got to focus up. Was this part of this is just a thing you did, or was this part of an organized event of some sort?
It was an organized event, so it was fully supported, which means there's like vans coming along that will bring, like if you have extra gear, like for example, I camped overnight in between the 2 days of riding. So you can pass off like a bag with your gear, whatever you don't need while you're riding. The van will take it for you. And there's like medical folks who can help you if you need it, and mechanical people, if you have like a bike issue. And there's rest stops with lots of food and, all sorts of hydration stuff. And yeah, so just making sure everyone's doing it safely.
That's good.
And yeah.
And listen, you said you drove across a state. That could mean many things. And I'm not asking you to out your anonymity, but I mean, like, driving across Delaware is a lot different than driving across Kansas or Tennessee. I'm not asking you to say the state that you're in, but are we leaning more in the Delaware size of things, or are we leaning more in the Texas side of things?
Definitely not the Texas side. I can tell you the distance, and I'm okay with whatever information that provides. So the distance was 235 miles.
235 miles. That's no joke. And did you sleep overnight, or did you just drive straight through?
Yeah, I rode. So I rode pretty much all day Saturday, like I think we started at 5. And then Saturday afternoon, set up camp, and I camped at a state park. And then Sunday got up and started riding at 6 a.m. and rode pretty much all day Sunday. Yeah.
And do they set up the tents, or do they, like, the support teams, or you guys have like packs with your camping gear on your backs while you ride your bikes?
So I brought my own gear, and then I pass it off to the like support vehicle, and then they just take it to your, like, if you say I'm camping at such and such state park, there's like one state park option essentially, but they'll just drop everyone's bag at the like park office, and then when you're done riding for the day, you ride into your park and pick up your bag, and then you can set up your tent and stuff. I think a lot of people, I think that was like the least popular choice because I didn't see many other people camping. I think most people were doing the hotel option, which I understand. But yeah, so I just set up camp and slept like a rock and got up and did it again on Sunday.
That's wild. And I guess the big question is why? Why was it for charity, or was it more just the personal challenge, or what?
A little of both. So the ride was a fundraiser for our state bike federation. So it's like a bike advocacy organization. And for me, I had heard about it over the past few years and was like, that sounds insane. But something that if I were able to do that one day, that would be so freaking cool. Yeah. And this year just kind of worked out with timing. And this year is a really big year for me personally. I just hit the 5-year mark of being cancer free.
Oh,
and
congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm just I'm doing a lot of stuff this year that I didn't plan it all to be this way, but it just happens that this year I'm doing a lot of stuff where it's wow, a couple years ago, I never thought I would be able to do any of this stuff. And so now that I have the, opportunity not only to survive, get through all my treatment, wow, I can really push myself physically, and just see what I can do. And it just makes me feel so alive again to do this stuff that's just seems out of reach, but is possible.
I have to say, sometimes you meet people who do, it doesn't sound like this was exactly like an ultra cycling event. It wasn't a race necessarily, but it was.
No, it was not a race. No.
But it was an extreme distance bike ride. And sometimes you meet people and it's like, why'd you do that? And people are like, well, because I'm chasing that adrenaline at all times. And I don't disrespect that, but it's not my thing. But then hearing you say hey, I've lived through some stuff that made me really value every moment and want to live the most life I can. I go, well, that's a good reason to do something physically extreme.
Yeah. Just doing things that I never even dreamed, even way before I was sick. This is not something I thought I would be able to do. Yeah. And it's just amazing to just feel like this is what makes me feel like I have this chance to kind of like a second chance at life, that's how it feels for me.
How old are you?
I am 37.
37. That's I mean, I guess it's not people of all ages. But to hear that you are a cancer survivor at 37, I go, ooh, that's still pretty young to have that massive roadblock thrown into the middle of your life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No one expects cancer, and, at any age it sucks. And, and I did happen to be very much on the younger side of things. And that was a really big part of my story too, with being diagnosed. So much of my experience was really fighting to get the healthcare that I needed, and to really have doctors believe me that something was wrong. I was 31 when I first noticed. So I had breast cancer, and I was 31 when I first noticed something's off. My breast tissue just doesn't feel right. I could definitely feel a lump. But yeah, it wasn't until many months later that I actually got the correct diagnosis and was able to start treatment.
And can I ask how intense that treatment was?
Yeah, it was super intense. I mean, it was really difficult, physically, emotionally. I mean, everything. And I think as probably is similar for a lot of folks going through cancer, it's like, it really just stops, like your life comes to this screeching halt and you really have to, like, I really felt like I had to drop everything and just like, this is my one focus, is just getting to treatment, getting through this, this list of things that I have to do. And it was hard to really have the energy or time or resources for much else than that.
It's incredible. Now you're just zipping on a bike through an entire state.
I know. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to do this. Like, I chose to do this thing that, like, there are moments of it where I'm just like, cursing and like almost, I was texting someone like, I'm barely alive right now. But like, it's so cool that I get to do stuff, just to be like, hey, I'm going to try this really hard thing. Because I'm able to. I think I'm able to, and I want to give it a shot. And why not?
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
I could never. I don't think I could ride a bike for 3 miles, let alone across an entire
Really?
state.
You're not a biker at all?
I have very bad joints. I have a condition.
Oh.
So my knees would. I would be feeling it for weeks if I tried to do what you did. I actually don't know that I could physically complete it.
Yeah. Oof. What's the name of the condition that you have again?
I think this may have been mentioned on the show. I have something called nail patella syndrome, which has, various degrees of how it can affect you, but it mostly hits my elbows and knees and hands.
Okay.
And really has misshapen my elbows in a big way, which is why usually if you ever see me on stage, I usually wear a jacket to cover up my elbows because I'm insecure. But I can't really cover up my hands. And yeah. Anyway, it's a whole thing.
Okay.
But it doesn't affect me on a day-to-day life. I'm generally in some level of physical pain in some joint at any given time, but it's fine.
Oh, man. And you've been able to find like your own, like activities that you enjoy, right? You do, is it jujitsu?
Yeah, I was at a jujitsu gym. I just quit again. I was not.
Oh, shoot.
Part of it was the physical stuff. Part of it was I was not loving the experience of the gym I was at. But I'm not looking to.
Okay.
I'm not looking to publicly air them out. But it wasn't my vibe. Turns out when you hang out with a lot of people who do jujitsu in northern New Jersey, that sometimes that puts you around some people who are not necessarily sensitive artist types.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my kind of folks that I'd be looking for at a gym too. And I agree, it's not a given at all gyms, that's for sure. But sometimes
when you find it, it's great. Oh, when you find it, it's magical.
Yeah.
Magical. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What can you do? So
yeah,
you've been on this epic bike ride. We could get more into the granular side of that, I should say, to enunciate more clearly. You are a survivor. I'm not sure if you'd like to talk more about that, or I could ask you other random questions, but I like getting to know you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm totally open to, I'm a very open book about cancer stuff. And I also love talking about, this bike ride and all sorts of other things. I do, my main like consistent activity is that I do triathlons. So I did my first half Ironman this summer too.
So when I before was like, oh, it's not like you did like an ultra cycling event. You didn't, but it's not. It sounds like something you would consider.
Oh man, like this ride as a race.
Yeah. The ultras, like for anybody who doesn't know, there's this culture of like ultra marathons and ultra cycling, which is, a marathon is what, 26.2 miles, I think. And then sometimes there'll be a race that's like, this is 150 miles through a desert.
Right.
And these people are physically beasts and mentally intense to get through it.
Yeah, no, it's true. So much of it is mental. That's one thing I've really noticed is that that I wasn't totally expecting, but it makes sense. Like I think I've been fortunate with being able to do a lot of like cross training and stretching and conditioning and really trying to prevent injury as much as I can, because I know what I do is like so intense that the risk of injury and all that stuff is high. So I try to try and cover my bases as much as possible to take care of myself. But one thing I have noticed is that like when I go out for, if it's like a long race or like a long training day, whatever, sometimes I'll get home and I'm like, I feel pretty good physically. Like I feel tired. Like I know I just did a long workout, but what really hits me is like the mental fatigue. Like sometimes I'll get home from a long run and just be like, that I just need to, like, my brain needs to just turn off, even if like physically I'm like mostly fine. I'm like, yeah, I can't really like think right now.
When you're doing a triathlon, what is the worst of the three legs? The running, cycling, or swimming?
Oof. My least strong is the swim. And that's been a really cool like opportunity for me to learn something as an adult, which is, I think such a beautiful thing no matter what it is that we choose. That's something I've really learned over the past couple of years, that like trying something as an adult where you get into it and you're like, hey, I'm just going to show up to, like, for example, I started going to my like community swim class at a high school. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really outside of my comfort zone. Like I'm bad. Like I'm bad at this thing. And this is intimidating and I'm scared. And I don't, I know how to swim. Sure. Like I can keep my head above water, but I don't know anything about technique, about efficiency, nothing. And that's what's so cool, is to be like, show up, be new at something, be bad, let yourself make mistakes. And the coach is like, yeah, I'm going to help you. Like, that's why I'm here. And you showed up, and that's all you need to do, and just do what you can and I'll help you. And that's been incredible to just be like very humbled and be like, yeah, help me learn this new skill, because I have so much to learn. I'm starting from almost nothing.
Is there a general order of events that the triathlon goes in?
Yes, it's always swim, bike, and then run.
They make you swim first?
Yeah.
Just trying to ride a bike while wet I would be out right there.
From what I understand, I think the swim is first because it's potentially the most dangerous if you are like really fatigued.
Right. That makes sense.
So then, if you're at the end of a race and you're really, really tired, and maybe you're not ready to quit necessarily, but you're like, I can maybe do something slowly, I think it's safest to have that be the run, because at the minimum you could walk. But swimming, you're just like in the water. And if you're not able to regulate your breathing and like move in the correct way, then you could really putting yourself in some danger.
What's it like to climb onto a bike in a wet bathing suit? That right there, I can't do it. I can't participate. Not a fan.
I know. It sounds awful. And as much as I've grown to like, I absolutely love swimming now, but like the idea of being in like wet clothing when I'm not like doing an activity in water, oh, I hate it. So like, yeah, I totally understand your comment. The cool thing is, a lot of like triathlon specific clothing is extremely quick dry. And as long as it's not, like I've had a couple races where it's raining. So unfortunately, yeah, I didn't ever really dry off. But if it's a mostly sunny day or even partially cloudy, once you start biking and like the body heat and just the wind and all that, like it's pretty amazing how quickly your clothes will dry off, actually.
Well, I'll never know. You can make that claim, and I will literally never know, because I'm never going to put on triathlon-specific quick-drying clothes. 0% chance. So I guess I'll just take your word for it.
Oh, my gosh.
I guess I'll just take your word for it. Now,
yeah.
Were you, it sounds like you've maybe amped up the intense physical activities post your cancer going into remission. Were you always somebody who was into physical stuff, or is this really pretty new and a direct reaction to that?
Yeah, I would say more of the latter. I've always been like generally an active person and just enjoyed being outside in particular, like doing activities outside, biking for sure. And yeah, camping and things like that. I played ultimate frisbee for many years. But yeah, it was really like going through cancer that really changed all of that for me, to a point where I was like, okay, I want to start really. I had never really, whether it was physical or just in general with life stuff, I had never really like pushed myself outside of my comfort zone. I had always really tried to stay kind of like in this little cozy box of, you know, what I knew and what I thought I was good at, or, you know, there wouldn't be a lot of surprises, things like that. And yeah, I mean, just going through cancer was one big like surprise, and everything was unexpected. And, you know, there's just so much happening all at once that you realize, oh, I don't really have control over all this. So maybe I should change the way I'm approaching things and start trying things that are actually hard, that are going to push me a little bit.
Man, this call, first of all, I encourage everybody to check the clock, because I feel like this call's flying by. I bet you do too. Let's take a little break here, because we're getting so much good conversation going so fast. Let's go ahead. Let's have some ads. We'll be right back. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. Look, I am a traveling artist. I know how to find a deal at the airport and at any hotel, and I am certainly somebody who's not above finding deals wherever they are. But yeah, it's got to be easy. It's got to be obvious. It's got to be part of life. No jumping through hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process, honestly, is the time you spend on hold breaking up with your old provider, because Mint Mobile makes everything easy. Their website is easy. The purchasing plan is easy. The activation, they make it all easy. And if you want to get started and save a bunch of money, go to mintmobile.com/beautiful. You'll see right now, all 3-month plans, only $15 a month. That includes the unlimited plan. And you know what I love about this? Is that you piece it together and you go, somebody realized that mobile is expensive, but that it can be profitable at a better price point for the consumer. And they are doing the right thing and giving you an option that doesn't gouge you. It's as simple as that. That's how things like this come to be. Kudos to Mint Mobile for not falling into the trap of corporate greed. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Bring your phone number along with you, okay? Bring those contacts along with you. You can find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/beautiful. That's mintmobile.com/beautiful. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/beautiful. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower than above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Therapy has changed my life. It has been an absolute game changer in every way. I am someone who has proudly been in therapy for well over 20 years now. Probably just crossed the 21-year mark if I'm thinking back on it. And I know how hard it can be to get into it, to know that it's something that'll change your life for the positive, but dive into it. I have to tell you, the improvements on that process from 20 years ago are massive. And I'm so happy to tell you, about Talkspace because they're a huge part of it. Therapy makes me sleep easier at night, makes me more comfortable in my own skin, helps me connect to other people better, helps me remove stress from my life. And Talkspace is changing the game as far as accessibility. Okay, because meeting with a therapist, finding a therapist at all, then finding out if they're the right fit or not, it can be so daunting. It can take so much time out of your day, so much focus and energy. Talkspace is accessible. Personalized treatment. You can meet online from anywhere. You can text your therapist at any time. You can use the methods of communication you are used to and comfortable with to keep that therapy ball in the air. Another thing I love about it, let's talk affordability, because therapy can be expensive, but Talkspace is not just affordable, it's also in network with most insurance providers. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider. They make getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. Talkspace therapy and psychiatry are covered by most insurance plans and employers. Most insured members pay a copay of $30 or less. They make it so easy to sign up. You can get paired with a licensed provider that's a great fit for your needs, usually within 48 hours. And if you want to switch, no extra cost. That right there, absolute game changer. You can even talk it out in between sessions. You can send messages to your therapist in the moment, which I really love because I know there's times where I sit there and go, I got to talk to my therapist about that. And then I sit there and I get to therapy and I actually have anxiety going, wait, what did I want to talk to them about? Talkspace makes it so you can just get things on record, keep the conversation going between sessions, make sure that everything is accounted for, get it off your chest in the moment. So many game-changing aspects to what Talkspace is doing. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/beautiful. Enter the promo code SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/beautiful. Enter the promo code SPACE80. You'll get $80 off your first month, and you'll show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/beautiful. The promo code is SPACE80. They are the longest standing advertiser of this show. They have had our back for years, and they want to have your back too. Talkspace.com/beautiful. The promo code is SPACE80. Thanks to all our advertisers. Now let's get back to the phone call.
Maybe I should change the way I'm approaching things and start trying things that are actually hard, that are going to push me a little bit.
Now, are your friends and family proud of you? Are they concerned? Are they like, oh, you survived cancer and that's amazing, obviously, and we love you, but also we'd love to sit down and maybe talk when you're not busy driving 250-mile long bike rides. Like, is there any part of them that's like, this cancer seemed to maybe push you to a place that's a little extreme, or are they mostly just psyched that you're still here and proud of you for going for it?
I think most people are proud and just really psyched. My dad is like my biggest cheerleader. And we've become a lot closer in the last few years. And we have this, we have this relationship that's like never really existed before. And I never thought I would have this kind of relationship with my dad. To have him such a big part of my life now. And he's been able to actually see me do triathlons, and he's just like going nuts, like taking all these photos. And like, I've never had that with my dad. And to have that now, I'm just like, wow, that is really, really special.
I love that. It does make me wonder, what was the nature of things before? You said in a very gentle way, you're like, never saw this one coming with my dad. Yeah.
Well, for many years, my dad was married to his second wife. So he and my mom got divorced when I was really young. And the whole time that he was remarried, so his second marriage, we were really far apart. We just our family wasn't, I know there's no perfect family unit. And at the same time, I would really say that my family didn't feel like a unit at all, really. It was really, not because of any one thing. There was a lot going on with like my dad and his second wife, and then my mom. There's just a lot of things that weren't functioning well between everybody. And yeah, I just felt broken for many, many years. And I just had, like, as a kid, I had always thought like, oh, how great it would be to have this like picture perfect, family. And I had come to terms that was probably never going to happen. And whatever that idea was probably not even a real thing anyway. That there is no real one perfect type of family. But yeah, I had kind of given up like the thought of my dad being like active in a relationship with me specifically, like having that bonding time one-on-one. And yeah, just in the last few years, he got divorced, and he and I had actually had a lot of parallels. So just after I think a little bit after I finished my treatment, he actually was diagnosed with cancer as well. And we both ended up getting divorced within the same couple of years. I think it was around the same time.
Whoa.
And so we had these like parallels going on, and we just, and then underlying all of that, we've always had these, I think, qualities about ourselves that are very similar, in addition to these life circumstances that kind of lined up. But he and I have always both been like the adventurous ones, the like outdoorsy ones, like creatives. We just kind of think in the same way, and we feel like we process emotions in the same way or similarly. He's like very in touch with his emotions, and he and I bond a lot that way, which I love. And so, yeah, we suddenly were like, oh my gosh, we have so much that's happening, that's very similar between both of us. And that really brought us to like reconnect and kind of rebuild from scratch almost.
I do have to ask one specific that jumps out to me. What's it like to feel like, you mentioned, and so classy and also so real? Like, my family wasn't built like the traditional sitcom two-picket fence family. It happens, and there was some disconnection there. But for you to say one of the things that allowed you to connect was that you were both getting divorced around the same time, I hate to chuckle, but I'm like, it's just a very funny specific of like, me and my dad didn't really connect until we both were randomly leaning on each other about divorces.
I know, isn't that wild? It's so nuts.
Were you two like kind of broing out over it?
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that you use that word. Because when I'm with my dad, we are like totally broing out. Like that's what we do. Oh my God. Yeah. So another big thing that's happened in my life is that I came out as queer like a few years back. And I think a lot of my coming out experience I think what I was holding myself back with was all these questions of like, oh, do I have to be in a relationship with this gender to, be valid as a queer person? Or like, how do I validate my identity as a queer person? Because I wasn't totally sure like where I fit or like what labels and all these things. And I'm coming to realize like, oh, the labels are like fine. If you identify with them, they're great. But just allow yourself to be what it is that you are, and things will just come to light naturally. And so once I kind of stopped fixating on like labels and like, what am I, who am I attracted to, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, a big part of this for me is gender expression. And I've always felt like less of a feminine person. I mean, I still identify as female, but I would say I love to express just like a range of gender identities. Even just subtly, just for my own, it just makes me feel a little bit more like me. And my dad is someone that like is very receptive of that and very supportive of, like, he tells me all the time that he loves how he can really see me being my true self and how much he loves to see that. And part of that is like, yeah, so when I'm with him, I feel like we're two like dudes, like just broing out, because we're both like people who have been somewhat recently divorced. Like, I'll go visit him, and he lives quite far away. So I'll go visit him and like stay at his single person condo. And I'm like, yeah, we're just like broing out. It's great.
Can I ask, and you might have mentioned it. If you did, I missed it. I don't think you did. When you got divorced, can I ask who you were dating at the time? Guy, girl,
like who I was married to?
Non-binary. Yes, who you were married to, rather.
Yeah, I was married to a man.
Oh, because hearing you say that you've dated all sorts of people and you kind of just follow your instincts, which, by the way, is beautiful. There was a part of me that was like, man, if you got divorced from a woman and then you and Dad are just down at a bar, like, yeah, can you believe these broads, man? And you're just like really leaning on each other about that. But instead, you're like, you're his not that feminine daughter, and you're at the bar, like, oh, can you believe these people?
Yeah.
That's
absolutely
a non-traditional but also weirdly wholesome thing to be able to lean on each other about.
I know. Yeah, I would say we're very wholesome. It's great. But yeah, like last time I was visiting him, we have this family friend that will usually come to spend a little bit of time when I'm in town visiting. And she's a lesbian, and I kind of consider her my like lesbian fairy godmother. She's great. And she was like, hey, there's this lesbian like speed dating thing. You should come. And so, yeah, I went to the speed dating, and my dad was just like cracking up at all these like just little jokes that she and I were making with each other. And it's just great.
I love that. I also have to say too, hearing you say that you stopped worrying about labels, stopped trying to figure out which exact category you fit into, and just instead learn to embrace, like, I think I'm just going to follow my instincts, be who I am. If that doesn't fit into a neat little slot, or if that oscillates over time, changes back and forth, whatever it is, like, I think I'm just going to let my guard down and stop worrying about it. I feel like younger people are growing up more and more where that is the standard, and wow, that's a game changer and a beautiful thing.
It really is. Yeah, I'm so hopeful that more and more people are going to grow up in a world where it's like, hey, you're not, because you were born this way, like we assigned you this gender at birth. This is what your life path is going to look like. Like, I just want to see more and more people breaking out of that. And, it would just be beautiful to see that progress in our lifetime.
Just also seeing stuff. This is going to sound so basic, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. The power and the impact of realizing that young people are going to grow up, whereas for people of a certain age, there were certain things that you go, if you're thinking that, sort it out in your head and figure it out in your head.
Right.
That's a private internal monologue issue for you to nail down and come to grips with and decide what you want to do with. Whereas now young people grow up and you go, oh, you're feeling how? Oh yeah, a lot of people have felt that. And that's the starting point. That at the very least we are getting, I don't like to pretend that it's flowers and roses in so many different ways. But I do think at the very least, it's fair to say that at the very least, overall, things have shifted to a place of, oh yeah, well, this is at least stuff that you recognize and talk about and can turn to others to let them know what you're thinking and where you're at, and people aren't going to freak out. What a much better starting point for young people. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that can apply to so many things. And as I've gone through, the challenges of the last few years, it's like, that was one of my biggest ways to heal and to process was connecting with other people and being able to like normalize conversations about, you know, my cancer experience and being like, hey, cancer isn't a bad word. Like, of course, it's a terrible, awful disease, and like it kills way too many people. And you know, there's so many awful things about it. At the same time, that's all the more reason why, if someone does feel like they need to talk about it, being able to have that space without fear of like being ashamed or making people uncomfortable, or, you know, all these reasons why, you know, a lot of times in the past, cancer wasn't really like a topic of conversation that people would open up to. Having that space to talk and connect has been such a big piece of my healing. And I think for a lot of others that I've connected with too. And that, yeah, I think that can apply to a lot of people in various different, you know, situations in life.
I love that. I bet there's a lot of other survivors out there taking comfort in those words who also feel the power of being less alone. You know, there's this phrase going around now, and as soon as I heard it, I said, well, I don't even need to read up on that. I think I know what they mean, the loneliness epidemic, that we're in the middle of a loneliness epidemic. I think there's so much truth to it. And we're in a very strange time where, as you say, it's like survivors can talk about being survivors without feeling like it's going to make everybody else uncomfortable now. We allowed that freedom. We were talking about how queer kids can explore their queerness with a, not total, but in general, much more societal breathing room to explore. And there is this weird dichotomy happening right now. You look at other things too, like it's come up on this show so many times. One of the things people still feel like there is don't talk about that. Fertility issues, miscarriages. These are things that are still hugely stigmatized, but there's a lot of people starting to go, we want to talk about experience without feeling shame or that we're putting discomfort on others. We have to stop this. There's a very strange dichotomy right now of people going, we need to open up our ability to talk about things that used to be viewed as uncomfortable or taboo. And yet we are also breaking through those barriers in the midst of what seems to be a widespread, omnipresent societal sense of loneliness that is driving people past their breaking points. It's a really strange time to think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've definitely noticed when you've brought it up on the show, like when you bring up the loneliness epidemic. And I think that was probably the first place I heard it, was you mentioning it. And just like you said, it clicked for me instantly. I was like, oh yeah, like, yes, that is absolutely what's happening. Yeah.
Big time. It's a strange thing. Yeah. Because you hear the loneliness epidemic, and, you know, there are probably a lot of people who hear that phrase and go, oh, that sounds soft. That sounds weak. But I think there's a lot more people right now who hear it, and the first time they hear it go, yeah, I know about that. I know about that. And I heard it and went, ooh, that stings, because I feel the truth of that. And my job is to literally talk to people and sometimes go and make people laugh. Like, my job is to connect with others, and I feel the loneliness epidemic. So I can't imagine what it's like for other people who don't have it built into their workday that they connect with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's real for sure.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite articles I've ever read, there was an incredible, you would like this article, which is why I'm going to bring it up. And then it also brings up some questions. Cool. There's this really incredible New York Times article from many years ago, all about an ultra cyclist. And the premise was basically this New York Times, this New York Times reporter found out about the world of ultra cycling. This was many years ago when it was not, you know, it was just coming into prominence as like a fad / thing people were starting to talk about. And there was an ultra cyclist that tended to win so many events that if you looked up ultra cycling at the time, and he was from, I think, one of the Balkan nations, and this article, the reporter started becoming a little obsessed with like, who is this person and why do they win all the events? And they started theorizing like, you know, people say that Michael Phelps has like certain joints or large hands and feet, that he has like genetic advantages that make him swim fast. Is this guy built to ride a bike somehow? Does his body absorb oxygen in a way that's different than others? And then she tracked him down and met him. And the article is this amazing, kind of funny, but also jaw-dropping article where she's like, what I found out is that basically when you participate in ultracycling, your body at some point can't handle what you're doing to it, and your mind starts to go. That basically your body, to force your body to stop, your mind starts to break, and then you have to stop and deal with what's happening to you mentally, and your body is doing that so that you stop. And that basically these ultracyclists have support teams, and the difference with this guy and everyone else is that when his most support teams, when they see that someone is mentally breaking, the support team says, stop, let's pull him in the van, let them rest, give her some electrolytes, recover. And this person's support team instead said, oh, it looks like they're starting to lose it, go time, and encouraged it. In other words, like they would catch up, they would see he'd have like a big burst of energy, and they'd catch up and go, what's going on? And he'd be crying and going, I think I'm being followed by the Mujahideen. And they'd go, yep, the Mujahideen's coming for you. And if you don't win this race, they're going to get your family. Go. And he'd take off and be convinced that soldiers were following him in a race that was on a different continent than those soldiers even exist. Oh, yes. Andrea found it. It's from 2006 by Daniel Coyle. It's called That Which Does Not Kill Me Makes Me Stranger. I guess my question is, did you start to feel like you were mentally slipping at all, like that ultracyclist was, or no? That was a big ramble on my end. Just went on a big old ramble. That's how you know I'm comfortable with the caller, when I go on a big tear like that. Anyway, we've got ads. We'll be right back. Maybe you're curious about Ozempic or Wegovy. Maybe you don't know how to get your hands on it. Maybe you are realizing that like there's been a rush on these things. And even if you have, you know, the feeling that this is right for you, and you've had people tell you that it could be right for you, it's tough to access it. That's where Ro comes in. Okay. I want to talk to you about Ro. Through Ro, you can access prescription compounded GLP-1s with the same weight loss ingredient as brand name GLP-1s at a fraction of the cost. They have it in stock now. Ro right now has the compounded GLP-1s in stock these days. It takes about 1 to 4 days if you qualify. And you get support throughout the process, by the way, okay? If you're eligible for the medication, patients have access to their provider on demand. You can ask questions. It's just making something that you've heard about accessible and easy, but it also is something that has a lot of support behind it and a lot of customer service so that you can get all the questions you want answered from a provider at any time. You can qualify from the comfort of your own home, by the way. You don't have to schedule a doctor's appointment. You don't have to commute. No waiting rooms. You just touch base. You do it from online. And your medication typically ships within 1 to 4 days, comes right to you. Go to ro.co/beautiful. Memberships start at just $99 for your first month. The medication costs are separate. That's ro.co/beautiful. Go to ro.co/safety for black box warning and full safety information. Compounded medication is not required to and does not receive FDA review or approval. RX only. This episode is brought to you by IQBAR, and I ate an IQBAR maybe 6 minutes before I started recording today. I love IQBARs. I was in my kitchen. I was like, I need something that's going to fill my stomach. I don't want it to be a junky snack, but I want it to taste really good, and I don't want to have to think too hard about it or have it take any time. This is true. I was in one of those moods, and I went, oh, baby, I forgot that I got a cabinet full of IQ bars right now, and it was the best, and it tasted good. My wife loves the IQ Joe, by the way. They have a coffee product called IQ Joe, where my wife, literally, when she realized there was some in our house, she started doing a coffee dance in our kitchen. She started dancing. She loves them so much. She goes hard. She stands by the IQ Joe product really hard. And I want to tell you too, I've been loving the IQ mix. I've been getting the pink lemonade flavored IQ mix, and that is incredible. You mix it with your water and you get rehydrated quicker. You get those electrolytes in. All right. And you don't get like muscle cramps. You don't get that exhaustion that comes with dehydration. Gives you energy, focus all day long. You can power up your life right now with superior brain and body nutrition products from IQBAR. Their plant protein bars are the perfect low carb grab and go breakfast. Their IQ Mix Zero Sugar Hydration drinks replenish electrolytes lightning fast. Their IQ Joe mushroom coffees are packed with magnesium and lion's mane adaptogen to keep you focused all day long. They got over 10,000 5-star reviews and counting. Start each day right with IQBAR's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their ultimate sampler pack includes all 3. You get 7 IQBAR flavors, 4 IQ Mix flavors, and 4 IQ Joe flavors. And today, our listeners get an exclusive offer of 20% off plus free shipping. Just text BEAUTIFUL to 64,000. That's 64000. Send them the word BEAUTIFUL. You get 20% off. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all the IQ Bar products and flavors. And by the way, if you're somebody who's worrying about dietary needs, guess what? They're gluten-free. They're dairy-free, soy-free, GMO-free, artificial sweetener free. If you're an athlete, if you're somebody out there who likes to run marathons, who like our caller who does triathlons, I can't imagine that there's too many things out there that are better for those types of people out there, man. These are quick and they work on the brain and body nutrition. Plant protein, like I said, all the flavors are good. Chocolate sea salt, peanut butter chip. The wild blueberry is the one I had today and it's delicious. IQ Mix, I have it almost every single day. And like I said, IQ Joe, that is a jitter-free instant coffee. It's got 200 milligrams of natural caffeine. It's got brain-boosting magnesium. It's got it's 4 delicious flavors: original black, vanilla spice, cafe mocha, toasted hazelnut. My wife loves them. Refuel smarter with IQ Bar's Ultimate Sampler Pack. That's 7 IQ Bars, 4 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. And now our special podcast listeners get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, just text the word BEAUTIFUL to 64,000. Get your discount. Text BEAUTIFUL to 64000. That's BEAUTIFUL to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Thank you again to our advertisers. Now we're going to finish up this phone call. I guess my question is, did you start to feel like you were mentally slipping at all, like that ultracyclist was, or no?
Oh my gosh. During the most recent ride?
Yeah. Like, when you hit 150 miles, do you start to feel like you're losing your grip on reality a little bit, or no?
No. So I did not hit the point of hallucination. So out of the 2 days, the furthest I rode in one day was Sunday. I rode 135.
Oh my goodness.
And just around I want to say just over 100 miles or so, I hit this point of, I didn't feel like mentally I was, like turning my brain off necessarily, but I did start to feel like kind of questioning, like, do I want to finish? I was just really feeling it physically. And I think just hitting a wall and, my friend and I who were riding together, stopped at a rest stop, and I was like, not necessarily giving myself a choice of like quit here or keep going. But I kind of went into that rest stop thinking like, okay, like, we'll just see, I really want to pay attention to like how I'm feeling, really listen to whatever signals my body is trying to send me. And, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And that's okay. Like, at that point I had already gone like 200 miles in 2 days. So I was like, I'm not, I don't need to be like a hero for anybody right now. Like, if I'm in like a dangerous place physically or mentally, like, it's okay to stop.
Are you familiar with the Barkley marathons? You're the type of person that I bet would like to do the Barkley marathons.
I may have heard the name, but I don't think I know much or anything about them. What are they?
There's a great documentary about them. It's a man, I believe, in Tennessee, and this man's kind of a maniac, and he's designed a race. You have to be invited to do it. It's not publicized when it is on any given year. And people run on these loops through a really treacherous, sort of not trailblazed area of mountain. And it has all these rules, but only a handful of people have finished it. And I think they've been doing it for decades. And I think last year was the first time that a woman successfully finished it. And I think only a handful, like half a dozen men in decades of it being run have ever finished it. And then last year, the first female woman participant completed it. But that sounds like the type of thing that you're like, I get the sense that you're like, no, I probably wouldn't do that, but I'd read about it and probably consider it more than you would, Chris.
I would certainly read about it. And actually, now that you told me some of the details, that does sound somewhat familiar. That's cool. That's really cool.
Now, can I ask you a sensitive question? Although you might be like, man,
absolutely.
Not that sensitive. So you mentioned that you don't consider yourself the most feminine. I believe you said you do identify as a woman, but you're not particularly feminine, and that presentation is something that's become more and more important to you.
Yeah.
I am struck by the fact that you had breast cancer. And
I know.
Breast cancer can also often lead to the need for reconstruction of the breasts. And that's also something that people who are making decisions about masculinity and femininity also think about those surgeries these days.
Yes, that's a very good point. And it's something that has really, that I've thought a lot about. There's so much. There's I think in general, going through cancer and breast cancer in particular, as you mentioned, that really opened my eyes to ways in which I don't necessarily identify with, very feminine people. When I was going through, chemo, for example, and lost all my hair, and I was being shown all these wigs, and you get a lot of I got a lot of printed materials and brochures and things about here's how to here's how to take care of yourself when you feel shitty during chemo, and here's how to find a wig, and all these kind of well-meaning resources. But it really struck me when I was going through it, and when I was looking at these books and manuals and things, hey, I don't really see myself in these people. And it's not just that a lot of the stuff is written for someone who's a little bit older, for example. And I was really young. I was 32 when I was going through treatment. So the pictures and the way things are written in these manuals is very much written for a woman who is usually written for someone who's straight and who is a little bit older and has a very specific kind of path for how they, want to get through treatment. So it's kind of assumed that you will probably want to have feminine, really feminine looking hair for your wig. And you'll want to have here's how you and your husband can try and have sex again. If you're chemo unfortunately has a lot of sexual side effects too. So that's a whole part of a lot of the support things are talking about sexual health. And it's all very, a lot of it I could tell it was not written with a queer person in mind or a younger person in mind. And so that really opened my eyes to wait, I don't really I happened to be married to a man at the time, but I didn't really feel the experience being described in these things was matching what I wanted. Breast cancer is so feminine that it's it just made me realize how I wasn't as feminine as I maybe had assumed. yeah, so when it came to surgeries, I did have to do a double mastectomy. So I had to have both breasts removed, and it's kind of the assumption, or it was in my experience, that, oh, like, this patient is going to have a double mastectomy, so we want to refer her to reconstruction, as you brought up. And so kind of the assumption, the default, is that if you're getting a mastectomy, you want to have breasts like rebuilt, essentially. And I did end up doing that. I did end up doing, there are a lot of different options and different like types of reconstruction that you can get. But I did do breast implants. And so I have breast implants, and I'm okay with them. I don't dislike them. I've come to get used to them. So I've had them for like 5 years now. So they feel very like normal to me. And I also have pretty badass tattoos over my whole chest, which I love, and I love showing them off. But like at the time, it was really just kind of like funneling me through the process. And I don't feel that my doctors really presented me with like, hey, there's other options. Like, you don't have to do implants. Like, there's a whole procedure called aesthetic flat closure that leaves you with a flat chest, and you don't have breasts. And the big difference with like, for example, if someone has like a gender affirming surgery, the big difference there would be like a lot of times they would still have the nipple. But for a lot of cases in breast cancer, if we have a mastectomy, we have our nipples removed. But yeah, I mean, it's like you can still have like this flat chest with nothing on it and no nipples, and you can have like tattoos if you want or whatever. But it's like, I just didn't feel like that was presented as like a really valid option. And who's to say, I can't go back in time. And at that time, I wasn't fully aware of like what exactly my queer like experience or thoughts or identity was. I hadn't really even come out to myself yet at that time. But I think I really would have considered doing the flat chest if I had had the opportunity to really like talk to some other people who had done it, talk to my doctors more. I think that would have been like a pretty solid option for me, actually.
I bet, just based on this conversation, who knows, but my guess is that we might hear in the reaction to this that there are people who work in areas surrounding cancer treatment, whether that's doctors, nurses, all sorts of people who support. I would not be shocked to learn that maybe there has quietly for years now that maybe cancer doctors are people who go, our societal reckoning with gender of recent memory, we've seen that unfold way longer than you have. Because I've never thought of it from that perspective of people have their bodies massively affected, and then some of these forms of cancer affect your, as you said, there might be sexual side effects. They might make you start thinking really hard about it. And then also you rebuild and get decisions on how to reshape your body, how to regrow your hair. I would actually, as we say it, not be shocked to hear that maybe there were people who looked in the mirror and went, I actually don't want long hair anymore. I actually don't want breasts anymore.
Maybe me.
Maybe I'm only realizing it now as really, that was you. It was the recovery from cancer me. Where you looked at it and said, that actually looks like how I feel more than I've ever felt. I bet that happens way more often than we know. I bet we're going to hear from some people in medicine going, yeah, this is a thing that is not out there, but that we've seen. This is a thing that happens. People decide who they are way more. So that was a correlation to you. Looking in the mirror at you with short hair, you went, this cancer fucking sucks, but I think I look good right there. on some
Yes.
level.
Oh, that is so accurate. For me, it was a lot. It was a combination of things. So with the timing of everything that happened, when I went through treatment, it was pretty much all of 2019. Like pretty much that whole year was just like cancer stuff. And so towards the end of 2019, I was, like winding down, starting to like heal again. My hair was starting to grow back because I had been like totally bald like that whole year. And my hair was finally growing back. And I was like, okay, like again, the assumption is kind of like, oh, someone who's been through cancer treatment probably wants to grow their hair back to what it was before. And I just kind of assumed that too, like, sure. And I'd always had really long hair and like really, really long hair. And so when my hair started growing back, I was like, okay, excited, I'm going to grow it out again. This is great. And I think I was able to get in for maybe one haircut. I had like just enough hair to get one haircut. And then everything shut down for the pandemic. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay. Cause obviously I wasn't about to walk into like hair salons when I'm like immunocompromised, like, I don't know what's going on. I was just like, I just got over cancer, man. Like, I don't want this other thing to mess with me too. So I was very, very careful. And so then I hit this turning point of like, okay, so what do I want to do with my hair now? And I just ended up doing like home haircuts, like shaving the sides, letting the top get long. And suddenly I have what, a phrase that a lot of my friends use that I absolutely love, that is called the gayest haircut ever. And yeah, it's way more me. It's way more me than my long hair ever was.
Can I ask, are you still in touch with your ex-husband at all?
A little bit. We still live in the same city, and we ended things like amicably for the most part. And so, if we need to be in touch, we absolutely can, call or text. It's not weird, but we don't like choose to hang out or anything.
And were these things we're discussing today part of your conversations with him? Like, are you turning around and going, so look, I've always been in touch on some level with my queerness, but now I have this haircut and I have to start admitting this is me. Like, is this a conversation you had with him, or did it come out differently in real life in the moment?
Yeah, it just kind of played out differently. I mean, he definitely knew me with the haircut just because that was all through like when we were quarantining and like all through, but long before I ever went, the whole time I was like going without going to a hair stylist. So he definitely saw like he saw that I was kind of like presenting differently, but I don't know if I never specifically came out to him. And so I don't know if maybe he just kind of picked up on it. If he knew like people I was dating, he would, figure it out, I presume. But no, I've never had that kind of in-depth conversation with him about it. And I mean, that was a hard part for us. I think part of what didn't work out between us was I had a lot of just like a lot of self exploration and really finding out who I really am and what I want to do with this like chance at life again. And that's become very important for me to process it personally. And I see a therapist, and that's really important too. And another component of all that is like surrounding myself with relationships, whether they're romantic or not, surrounding myself with relationships where I can talk to people about these things and like really connect with them on a deeper emotional level about like, who are we and what are we doing here? And, that kind of conversation just didn't come easily to him. And that kind of connection didn't come easily to him. And so that was a big piece of like where we found ourselves at this crossroads where it's like, hey, I feel really fired up to go out and like explore this new world and how I want to live in it and who I am. And I don't think that we're in that journey together anymore.
Yeah. And I have to imagine too, it's like, it's so valid, really real. How can you argue with this person where you go, okay, yeah, we've known each other on this level. We committed to marriage, but you almost fucking died. Like, you had to face mortality. And now on the other side of it, you're another person. And I get that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in so many ways tragic and sad, and so many other ways it would be more tragic and sad to not go whole hog at life in a way that you really feel truthful about and that you believe in when you've felt like you might die.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Is like, I really felt like I had to go out and see what this new opportunity at life could be. Like, it wasn't even a choice for me. It's like I had to go out and do what I can and really live as fully as possible.
I need to jump in water and then immediately get on a bike. I need to drive across an entire state. I need to give myself a haircut that everyone reacts to it. And I look in the mirror and go, hell yeah. Like, I need to just start taking big swings. I do get it.
Yeah.
Do you think...
Yeah.
We only have 10 seconds left, but we'll let the answer go a little long.
Oof.
Do you think if you had not had a cancer diagnosis that you'd still be with him? Or do you think that eventually you would have come to all of these realizations anyway?
You know, I think ultimately there would have been something. And I think whether it was cancer, you know, even COVID in some ways, even if I hadn't have been sick right before COVID, I think that would have been a really hard time for us, you know, just to sit down and like, this is the person that you're spending, you know, all day, every day with. And are you going to have those big conversations? Are you going to connect in new, meaningful ways while you have all this time together at home? Yeah. And I think somewhere along the road, whether it was COVID or something else, like, I think we would have sat down and realized, like, we're not seeking the same path in life right now or anymore. Yeah. And so I think it's good that we came to that realization when we did, and that we were able to, like, both go on our ways without, you know, divorce isn't a happy thing by any means, but I'm glad that we were able to find what was right for us. And hopefully he's happy too. And, you know, we can go on and do our own things.
We're going to say goodbye to everybody on the free feed. This call, I feel like you and I have been talking for 10 minutes. There's been so many different angles.
I know, me too.
So fascinating. Luckily, we get to continue, though. We get to do the questions behind the paywall. For anybody out there who wants more, sign up at beautifulanonymous.com. It's really great. I'm really proud of it, and we get to hear even more from this caller who has been... The vibe of our callers has been impeccable lately. Anyway, goodbye to everybody on the free feed.
Bye.
Caller, I can't thank you enough for calling. I'm so glad you survived. It's really incredible to hear about your connection with surviving, with moving on, with divorce, with your dad, with all these different things, let alone with physicality and pushing yourself. What a wild call, full of joy. And also, if you want to hear joy, guess what, everybody? The bonus content is filled with discussions of ska, which I did not expect, and I bet some of you are going to sign up for at beautifulanonymous.com. Caller, thank you again. Thank you also to our producer, Andrea Quinn. Thank you to Shellshag for the theme music. Punchup.live/Chris Gethard if you want info on my ticket sales. And hey, we have a voicemail line. It's 973-306-4676. We also have an Instagram. It's at Beautiful Anonymous Pod. And you gotta join this Facebook group, Beautiful Anonymous Community. If only for the weekly Andy, the weekly post from Andy. That alone is worth joining the Facebook group. Thanks, everybody. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions. Have you dated musicians before?
I have.
What did your musician play? Who'd you date? A drummer? A bassist?
I've dated. I've dated 2 different clarinet players.
Clarinet? Nobody was. Everybody's thinking about scummy rock and rollers. You're saying you can't even date a clarinet player?
So I dated 2 different clarinet players. The second clarinet player also played sax in like a funk band.
Hold on. Did they know each other?
No, they did not.
You have a type, and the type is woodwind musicians?
Oh my god. And I'm dating somebody right now who doesn't currently play in a band, but for many years was in a ska band and played trombone.
You legit only want to date people who play wind-powered instruments in your life. You're the type.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true.
Oh, I mean, we could have a whole conversation about how does this person feel about the modern ska resurgence?
Oh, I'm not sure. I can ask him tonight.
So you're currently dating a trombonist who used to play in ska bands. Then ska bands, everyone made fun of them for like 25 years, and now all of a sudden, all the kids love ska
now they're
again.
Cool.
Everybody loves ska again.
Ska is cool again. I love it.
Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.